Hey guys, so I wanted to do this earlier in the year, or maybe even last year, but I never got around to it. I never got around to actually ranking all of the animations from the past year. And there were a lot of animations to rank. I wasn't even sure how I was going to do this because there were so many videos that it was hard to figure out like where do we begin? Do we rank all of the videos? Do we rank which portion of them, which animations are tolerable, which ones aren't? It was a whole problem. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on really the 20 animations that had something unique to them. So nothing that was like a 1 hour version of something, nothing that some of them are remixes of sorts, but these 20 I think are probably the best sample of from the beginning of the year to the end of the year and how much I improved. And there is a lot of improvement, trust me. But without further ado, let's dive into these animations and look at them and rank them, because this is something that I wanted to do for a while now, and now I have some time to do it. So, starting off, we have Tails First Bacon. This is number 20. This is the bottom of the barrel. This is the worst animation of the year. Tails First Bacon and Sonic Kills Tails is an animation. It starts with Tails waking up very, very choppily, walking downstairs, smelling something, which is bacon, and then Sonic proceeds to scream at him, and then Tails eats way too much bacon, and then Sonic kicks him as Tails is having a heart attack. It is not a very pleasant animation, and that's why it is number 20. Number 19 is Tails First Donut and Sonic Kills Tails. This is still in that beginning portion of March, where I really don't know what I'm doing still with SFM. The animation is very choppy. It's probably even worse than Tails First Bacon, and in this one, Sonic beats Tails a million times after he eats too many donuts. It's not a great animation, and that's why it's number 19. At number 18, we have Tails does a sus dance and dies. It's less than a minute long. It's actually my first animation ever, and it's basically just what the title says. It's Tails does a dance with his tails, and then Sonic comes along and chokes him out. It still really isn't that great at all. The animation is terrible, and the plot is non-existent. It's just a silly, stupid video that doesn't have a whole lot of value. That's why it's number 18. Number 17 is almost not on the list, but it is unique enough that it kind of counts as its own thing. Tails Eats Waffles. It's just Tails eating waffles for 5 minutes. That's all it is. It's not necessarily the animation's okay. The animation's alright, and it's not nearly as violent as the first 3. But it's just Tails eating waffles, and that's about it, unfortunately. So, it ranks number 17. Number 16 is where the animation begins to at least be passable. I love my shovel with a heart emoji, where Tails is playing with his shovel. And I added some stuff at the end with Tails jumping off a building and then saving his shovel. That part of the animation is pretty terrible, and most of the animation in this one is still pretty bad. A lot of characters aren't moving their feet properly, aren't moving their necks properly. Sonic kind of spleens out everywhere. It's still not that great, but it's kind of ironically funny, but the animation quality just isn't there. At number 15, we have Tails' First Walmart Trip and Sonic Kills Tails. The animation is still not there. It's still very choppy, and I still really don't know how to work much of this. There's kind of a happy ending as Tails overcomes Sonic shoving cereal down his throat and throws a bowl at his head, and then Tails wins, if you want to count that as a happy ending, but it's still just kind of a wacky Sonic David parody, and that's about it. That's why it's number 15 on this list. Another short Sonic David parody is Tails Bonds with Sonic. Sonic is way too big in this video, first off. I'm just going to say that. He is not correctly scaled. I scaled up Sonic, but I didn't scale Tails. Tails is tiny in this one. And it's just Sonic he sees Tails, he, gives Tails a bunch of pets like a cat, and then he sits with them under a tree. It's wholesome, but the animation is still kind of bad. And that's about it for this video. That's why it's number 14 on this list. At number 12, we have Sonic and Tails Orchestra, which is something that would never actually happen because neither of these characters ever played the violin or the cello. But it was a fun little experiment I did where I wanted to see like how much I could move their arms, how successfully I could. They're playing a song that I found from The Simpsons, actually. And that's about all it is for 2.5 minutes. It's a fun little video. Not a lot of people watch it, but I like it a lot. That's why it's towards the middle of this list. It's number 13. Number 12 is Spinning My Tails for 5 minutes. Tails just spins his tails for you. I love it. That's why it's number 12. There's nothing else that goes on here, but it was a fun little thing to make. It's probably way too long for what it is. It's a parody of Spinning My Tails, the 2D animation. As number 12, Spinning My Tails. Number 11, Tails Sings Splatoon 2 is a very chaotic video. There's lots of flashing lights and lots of crazy Splatoon music and a lot of repetitive motion by Tails. So honestly, this one should probably be ranked a little bit lower, but I like it just because of all the flashing colors that I was able to come up with. So that's why it's number 11 for me. Number 10, we have Tails Sings Peanut Butter Jelly Time. I decided I wanted to play with the Boom Tails model. Don't play with the Boom Tails model. The Boom Tails model is not easy to use. He has like 1,000 bones, even if you set him up properly. Lots of problems with him. But it was a neat one-off video where Tails sings about peanut butter and jelly time. Like it's the late 2000s, so. Number 10. At number 9, we have Singing Tails full version. This is a parody video from TikTok. It's Tails singing. That's all it is for less than a minute. It's just Tails singing this song and not enunciating on anything, basically. People really like it. I think it's kind of cute. That's why it's number 9 on this list. Number 8, we have Tails' First Waffle. This is like the last bad animation on this list, the last really bad one. It really resonated with people for some reason. Mostly because I think it's the first video where there isn't some like violent, awful thing happening to Tails. But the animation is still really bad. Like there are times where Tails is floating off the floor, he isn't looking properly, things are just stiff. Like, it's still a mess, but it's a popular mess. So it gets to be number 8 on this list. I think it's a pretty significant turning point for the channel. So number 8 is Tails' First Waffle. At number 7, we have Tails' First Energy Drink. This is probably the last chaotic SFM there was on this channel. This one consists of Tails waking up, eating an energy drink, and then proceeding to beat up what might be Infinite or might be the leader, and then he might have pressed a button that launched a missile towards somewhere as he was hyperactive over a energy drink. It's a pretty wild video. It seems pretty popular. I think it was animated, not good, but not bad either. Kind of just average for YouTube's standards. So it gets to be number 7 on this list. And then finally, the last mess of a video, I'm going to call it, the last poorly animated video, is Tails' First Chatbot. Tails' First Chatbot is Tails interacting with ChatGPT that for some reason is like a monster and wants to attack him, and then Sonic makes him some chili dogs, and then they kind of hug. It's a wholesome video still somehow, but it's not very well made, so it gets to be number 6, the highest ranked bad video. Okay, so if you made it past the last 9 minutes of me complaining about my channel, congratulations. Now we get to the good stuff. The good stuff being the final 5 videos in these rankings. Around May of last year, I was able to reach out to TailsFan109, who was kind enough to begin actually providing me voice clips as he does for his animations himself. Coupling that with his guidance on how to just animate better in general, the animation quality really stepped up in the second half of the year. Eventually, the animations got so good that one of these is actually a continuation of one of his animations, and one of the ones that I came up with, he's now continuing in a very, very extensive way. Without further ado, let's explore the Golden Era. And at number 5, I'm going to put Tails' First Hot Wing. Tails' First Hot Wing will always have a special place in my heart, because it was the first animation that I think was actually produced well. It was the first animation where Tails Fan 109 was actually kind enough to provide voices to the characters here, so I could actually put them in their proper setting in the red house, not the blue house like I was doing for the longest time, and it actually felt like an actually complete good animation. The plot is both somehow funny, but sad, but cute, and a little bit of everything. It's a very complete video. I just wish that maybe my animating skills were a bit better at the time. There's still a lot of weird movements. For about half of the video, Sonic was actually kind of, his I can't quite explain it, but something happened where somehow his feet were pointed like perpendicular to where his bones actually were. It was really kind of janky, and that happened a lot towards the end of the video. Tails actually looks somewhat okay for most of this animation. Not great, but good, I'd say. Sonic does not look good for most of this at all. But still, Tails' First Hot Wing was a very pivotal animation for Orchard Animations as a whole. At number 4, we have Tails' Halloween Nightmare. Now, if you would have asked me back at the beginning of the year where I would have put this one, I probably would have put it at number 5. But now I put it at number 4, because as time has gone on, people have begun to appreciate it more, despite it being quite horrifying for what actually happens in Tails' Halloween Nightmare. When he gets out of the nightmare, it is pretty wholesome. It's a very short animation. It's only 2 minutes long, and I actually produced it. I actually produced it in less than 48 hours, which is wild to think about, because that means that, in theory, I would be able to produce a 10-minute animation in 10 days. If we count 2 days, 2 minutes, 10 days, 10 minutes. To be fair as well, most of the characters are in bed for most of the animation. I actually got the idea because I wanted something to be put out for Halloween, and Tails Fan 109 actually showed me Halloween 2 nights before this was created, and I thought, okay, we need some sort of like violent slasher piece to things. And thus, Tails' Halloween Nightmare was born. And I originally was going to have the Tails doll stab Tails in his nightmare, but then I figured, what are 2 things that Tails would actually be afraid of in this universe? Not the Tails doll, which wouldn't exist because Tails isn't well known yet. He's only like 3 in this episode. But what he is afraid of is the leader and Eggman. And he's afraid of the Eggman mask because Vector showed Tails a horror movie called The Worshipper. And if you want to see The Worshipper, you're going to have to wait till October or somewhere around there in the fall, because I'm pretty sure Tails Fan 109 is working on that right now. When that comes out, I'll add a card to this timeline so you can go check that out later. But for right now, Tails' Halloween Nightmare was quite the video, and that's why it's number 4 on this list. Number 3, we have Tails' First Ice Cream. This is kind of a hard video to place, because while the plot is quite wholesome and the animation is getting better, there's still a lot to be desired on the animation front. Plot-wise, it's kind of similar to Hot Wing, where like Tails is hot and then he gets ice cream and then he eats it too fast, and then Sonic has to calm him down. And there is a nice, there are a couple of nice moments in it. There are quite a few nice moments in it, actually, but overall, the animation, especially on Sonic's part, is still not great. The lip syncing is not great. Some of his movements aren't spectacular. This is a step in the right direction, and a lot of people still seem to love it. It was the first video to actually hit 1 million views, so I definitely appreciate it for that. But it's just not my favorite video of the year, even if it's the masses' favorite video of the year, so that's why it's number 3 on this list. At number 2, we have a video that nobody seems to have any actual love for, and that's okay because it's quite a morbid video. The Unwanted Fox, A Tales That Bond Nightmare, is a video that explores what was Tails dreaming about between that time in episode 2 of The Tales That Bond, where he fell asleep, and culminates in getting to see what that thing was that had him screaming so loud. You know, if you ever listen to Tails Fan 109 talk about episode 2, he'll talk about how episode 2 was really from Sonic's perspective about how he's viewing taking care of this small fox that he found in the middle of the woods, whereas this episode is the complement to that in that it explores what Tails was going through that night. Of the 5 videos produced in 2023, it is the lowest ranked in terms of view count. But I put it at number 2 because I felt like it was a story that needed to be told, because Tails was too descriptive with it in episode 2 that I felt like it was something that needed to be explored. So the animation is getting better. It's still not great. It's a story that needed to be told. It really highlights the mental scars that are still left in Tails' head from months of abuse. So, The Unwanted Fox, A Tales That Bond Nightmare gets to be number 2 on this list. And then at number 1, we have Tails and the Hot Chocolate. This is probably the best animated video of the year, which is good because it was the last video of the year. It's a Christmas special. It involves Sonic getting really cold, and then Tails has to try to help him by making hot chocolate. I think the flow of it is quite well. I think the plot is quite well. I think the expressions are getting much better, as is the lip syncing, the lighting, especially at the end. I love the final scene. The final scene it looks both so cold and so dark, but so warm and so light at the same time. I love it. I also put this video at the top because it puts Tails in a much more active role in this video. Typically up until this point, we've seen Tails when he's very young, and Sonic has to take care of him. But in this episode, Tails is actually 4. So he's actually getting to have some agency of his own and takes care of Sonic in his own unique Tails-like way. Not the only thing, but the main criticism that I've heard about it, mainly from Tails Fan 109, is that I need to get better with the camera movement, which is something that I took to heart, and I think for the one video that's been out so far this year, that video has a much better camera movement. But we're not going to talk about that one this year. We'll talk about that one next year, when it's the 2024 year in review of Orchard Animations. And we'll see where that one ranks. But for right now, here is the recap of the list. Again, one more time, I'm going to put it on screen here because I cannot say all these titles again. If you want to watch any of these videos, the playlist for it is up here. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.